How are you guys today?
Very well,
Good.
thank you.
Okay, so before I ask you any questions, just tell me a little something about Xtraview.
Sure. So Xtraview is a company that was founded last year in the middle of the pandemic. In fact, almost a year in July last year. And the premise of Xtraview is to believe that every child has that special something in them, and every child needs a platform to tell their story. And that led us to form the digital platform of Xtraview, where a student can come and record an interview. This is an unscripted interview that is recorded, and then a student is given that interview to be that they could share along with their written applications for colleges, universities, and also with resumes for internship opportunities. And we don't just have Xtraview, we have another exciting product, and I leave that to Katherine to talk about, and that's Extra Prep.
Okay, Katherine,
Yes,
would you
yeah,
have
thanks,
to tell
Kavitta.
us?
Yeah. Yes. So Extra Prep was sort of born out of the, discussions that we were having with institutions, with universities, where they said, this is great, we love this. We also wish that students had more preparation. Often this is the first interview that they've ever gone into, and if they were just better prepared, if they had had more practice, more guidance prior to going into this, they really would have been able to shine and showcase who they are. So based on those discussions, we also conceived of another product, which we call Extra Prep, where we actually have workshops that we do with students. It can range anywhere from students in high school, from class 9 onward, all the way up to students who are finishing their undergraduate degree and are looking to either enter the job market or applying to business schools. So to actually work with them and prepare them to succeed in the interviews, to understand, how to showcase their own narrative, to showcase their skills, to tackle any of those tricky interview questions, so that they're then really ready to go and ready to ace the interview once they do find themselves in that interview setting.
Okay, that is like very interesting. As a student, I also struggled with the fact that, what should I do? What am I supposed to say there? I'm still a child. I don't know what to do, right? So that is very interesting. How did you get the idea or the concept to start something so unique and to start this particular thing? What inspired you to do this? Yeah,
Yes.
please.
So I think it's a lot to do with other hats that we both wear and the professional experience that we bring together to this, to Xtraview. My journey has been that I'm a marketing business professional, and I also bring in theatre for children from overseas into the country. These are Broadway shows that are large format theatrical productions. So I have always worked in the children's space. And also I like to think of myself as a sort of serial entrepreneur where if I find an idea intriguing enough, then I like to go after it to deliver it. So that was my bit. And on a personal level, my own daughter actually went through the college admissions process a couple of years ago. And I realized there that a child with good communication skills definitely has an edge over children who may have more accomplished resumes, but they don't know how to present that information about themselves. That was one more reason. And the third reason was that as we delved deeper into this idea, we realized that in today's world, where it's become a very visual world, everybody has great ideas, but you need to be able to express that idea to become successful. So I think all three, from my professional angle, from my personal angle, and what the market need was, I think for me, Xtraview fit in and ticked all those boxes. And Katherine, your bit now.
Yeah, no, it was very similar that, from a professional angle, I was working as a college counselor. So I was working as sort of an admissions consultant for students and families. And so through those discussions with students, I understood what they felt like they were limited in being able to share on their application. They'd say that I have my resume, I have this, but this isn't really who I am, and I don't know how I can express that otherwise. And similarly, through conversations with admissions officers, they would say, we have this information about students, but we want to know more about them. We want to learn who they are, what's their personality, what do they bring to the table. So because there was sort of this mismatch, Xtraview was conceived to meet that need, to meet the need of both the students as well as the admissions officers in the universities, and to sort of bridge that gap in terms of communication. So students feel like they can convey who they are, they can share the important bits of their story, and admissions officers and institutions feel like they really get a sense of who this person is when they're deciding, you know, how they're going to fill their incoming class, or when they're hiring, you know, when a business is hiring new employees. So to really meet that match between the needs for those two parties.
Okay, yes, I can very much relate to that. I'm a graduate right now, and I'm thinking of applying to, you know, PGs for out of India, but I'm still not sure. You know, I have the resume, I have the internship, but I don't know how to present myself. So this is something that would be very helpful. Yeah. Okay, so just to be clear to what you're offering the viewers and what you're offering via Xtraview, tell us about the services and what made you think, what particular service made you think about which group or which category? What are you going to offer particular categories of students? If I'm in high school, what do I expect from Xtraview? If I'm in college, what do I expect from Xtraview? Yes.
Correct. So different offerings for different segments. We are very strongly placed. In fact, we're the first movers in the student segment, which starts right from grade 9 and goes up to someone who's completing their post-graduation. We have different sets. So, you know, every student in different let's say, groups has different communication needs, right?
Yeah.
So when you're a high school student, you need to talk about, you know, your goals and ambitions and why you are aligning yourself with the college or institute that you want to seek admission to. However, when you're a undergraduate or looking for a first job, or a postgraduate looking for a first job, it's very important that you learn what your personal narrative is, and then how do you create that elevator pitch about yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you become the most irresistible offering amongst the thousands of resumes available to an external recruiter. So I think we straddle the whole gamut of the marketplace, and we've also been approached by people who wanted us to do something for students who are in middle school, because, you know, communication is not something that you wake up one day and you learn up 5 formulas and that's it, it's done. You know, it's something that you have to have a base on, a foundation on, something that you need to practice, something that needs to be taught in a manner. And I think that's the offering that we are giving our students. And also a lot of courses in the market. I don't think communication has ever been looked at from a success quotient, the way we are looking at it, that it must deliver a particular need. And also, I think for a student, here is an amazing opportunity to learn and keep constantly learning. If you do the extra prep course, then you do a sample interview where we've created a grid where we give you assessment and we give you feedback on areas that you can look and how you can improve and what are things that you are really good at. So focus more on those. And if you do decide to take the Xtraview interview, then the offering is that it is a recorded interview. It is not a what would be the correct word? It's a spontaneous conversation, which looks at areas of interest that you want to highlight about yourself. It is recorded and saved in our cloud. So as a student, all you need to do is tell us, I need to send my interview to A, B, C, D, and we store it for a period of 1 year at no extra charge, and we send it to as many places as you want us to send it to. And if you are an admissions officer or you're a recruiter, then all you need to do is you will receive a link from us, which you just click, watch, and assess. So you don't need to invest in IT, you don't need to relearn anything, you don't need to spend time training your team to be able to use our offering. So we've sort of created it very simple on the go. And it's a long answer, I'm sorry, but I just thought it was important to give you the perspective. And Katherine, if I've missed anything out, please feel free to add.
I think, yeah, I'll just sort of summarize that. So for students who are early, they're just beginning to even think about interviews, extra prep is sort of the product offering for them. It gives them the preparation, they get the practice, they do a practice interview as a part of that. And again, the age range for that goes from, 14-year-olds who are early in high school all the way up to 21, 22-year-olds who are sort of ending their undergraduate career and moving into postgrad. Once students feel that they're prepared, then there's the Xtraview interview, which is the one that will actually go to institutions and go to admissions officers. And in addition to that, another product that that we've sort of developed along the way is also working with institutions and helping them. So these are ones, learning apps or different sort of teaching and training programs, and actually working with them to help them develop curriculum and coursework. Like Kavitta was mentioning, we've been approached for ones as early as middle school. So actually helping them to also put together communication training programs.
Okay. Okay, that is very great. What I didn't get as a person is that there are already a lot of institutions. Like if I'm applying somewhere, so obviously although I'm asking my parents what are their views, what are their experiences, or the college is already, or the institution, not even a college, the institution is already providing me a kind of a brief, right? This is what you're supposed to do. These are our requirements. What makes Xtraview so special that as a student I'll choose that? Right?
So
Yeah.
So Xtraview is that opportunity where, so if an application says, tell us about yourself in 250 words,
Yeah.
right? But you're more than 250 words.
Yes.
And Xtraview is that opportunity where you can talk about instances, experiences, dreams that you have that are difficult to sort of write down about. And also we all know that when children are submitting applications, like you said, you refer to what your parental expectations are,
Definitely.
what you are supposed to say,
Yeah.
how you want to fit into the right mold to kind of get into the fray. But this is actually a space where so let me give you an example. I mean, we've come across some very interesting student stories that have highlighted so many things. So one child who was a prefect, she was a social justice prefect, right?
Okay.
And in a normal application, all it would say was roles of leadership held, social justice prefect in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that would come in the written application. When she spoke with us, we asked her what is one of the biggest things that you handled or you dealt with as being a social justice prefect.
Mm-hmm.
And she turned around and said, everyone talks of bullying, but nobody understands how much of verbal bullying happens amongst peers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done without even others realizing they are doing it, and the ones being bullied understanding that they are being bullied. So for me, I took this up as a personal crusade, and I set up a cell in my school where anyone could anonymously come in and talk about it, and we helped resolve the issues, etc. Now imagine if I'm an admissions officer on the other side, how much insight and depth this gives me into a child's character. Because it takes great strength to stand up amongst your peers to address an issue like this, right? Yeah. And also the fact that this child has the maturity, has the forward thinkingness, and has actually resolved an issue which is there in there, which exists amongst them today. Mm-hmm. So this is the reason why you use a platform like Xtraview, where you get a chance to tell your story. And the person interviewing you on the other side are all experts who have great experience in the industry and who understand the right questions to ask, which bring out the facets of your personality like this.
Okay, yes. Now I get it. Like if I'm just writing a social justice prefect, so it's very basic. That doesn't give much insight. Yeah. But on the other hand, the other thing is just telling me what I've done.
Yes.
Definitely.
And there have been lots of such instances. I mean, I'm sure, Katherine, you could also recall another instance where this has come to the forefront.
Many, of course, that a student might say, I'm interested in building and tinkering, and I've done this. But then for them, that might be written on their application, and I'm applying for mechanical engineering. But then when you actually speak to them and draw them out in an interview and they're engaged in the conversation, you learn so much about, how their first experience of building was. This is a conversation we had with a student. Their first experience of creating something was a burglar alarm that he created to keep his parent out of his bedroom. And then later on, he went on to build a solar oven to bake cookies because his mom told him, no, you can't use the oven. So things like that, where to learn about how dynamic a student is and what they've been doing that demonstrates an interest, as opposed to them just listing it as an interest, really, really helps to round out and give a full understanding of who a person is and what he or she would be able to contribute as well.
Yeah, that is great. I mean, that is what we actually need as a society also, not just tags, the deeper insight of what a person is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We had one girl who was finishing her undergrad, and she said, I want to be a consultant, and I want to work in one of the big 5 companies. It sounds very grand and sounds very impressive.
Yeah.
The interviewer then went on to ask her, can you list these 5 companies? She couldn't go beyond 3.
Oh.
And this was a practice interview. So she learned that if I have to dive deep. If I'm making a statement, it has to be backed by knowledge. I can be questioned about it, and not knowing something so basic as this, dissolves the whole premise of me saying I want to be in consulting and I want to be hired by one of the big 5.
Yeah.
So it works as a great tool, to be a learning tool, to be an assessment tool, and for yourself to understand where you are and how you can grow from there.
Yes, definitely. Okay. As a student, I would definitely take up Xtraview now. You've already impressed me so much. All right. So
Thank you.
let's keep Xtraview on hold. As 2 women, 2 women who are in a patriarchal society and are just starting up something. I mean, it's been a year, but it's still the beginning of something new, right? What are the barriers that you faced upon launching? Was your family supportive? Were your friends supportive? Or did you face any challenges? Whatever. What's that? Tell us the story.
So I'll take it first and then hand it off to Kavitta. I would say that no barriers, but that's also because my family is incredibly supportive. I had already been working with my family, with my children, so I knew that I had that infrastructure in place, and that was really important. In the same way that in the workplace, you have to build a team who can support you. In your home too, you have to have a team, you have to have a support, you have to know, because otherwise, if you don't have a supportive partner, if you don't have people who can sort of pick up the slack, some days I have to say, look, I've got calls. Please, can someone else look after the kids? Can someone make sure that the food is sorted, that everything's taken care of? So I know that I have that team and I have that infrastructure in place already in my work and in my home. And that's been really essential to me being able to balance both of them and to keep, to sort of manage everything and keep myself sane, also feel like I'm not being pulled in so many different directions. So that I can absolutely see how that would be a barrier for many. And so it was really important that I had that sort of planned and in place before even starting. But otherwise, I'd say in terms of how we're going, there haven't been many barriers, just by based on the fact that we're women. In fact, I think it's quite nice that we're 2 women working together. We sort of pull each other up. We're sometimes one another's best cheerleaders. And so I think that that's been great. And in terms of the response, people have been really receptive and excited about the product, about what we're doing, what we're trying to create in the market.
That is great.
Yes, absolutely. I think for me also, there haven't been any barriers. And I think the fact that Xtraview is new, but both of us combined have very many years of experience behind us, both corporate as well, professional as well as entrepreneurial. So I think that, even though Xtraview is new, we are not new in the workplace. So I think we lean a lot on our past experiences to make sure that everything with Xtraview works. And like Katherine said, yes, a lot of support systems in place. And also the fact that, I think we just have a great partnership. Xtraview is co-created with the same ethos that both of us share. And I think that works very well in taking it where it has. And honestly, we're pleasantly surprised. Katherine and I were just having this conversation the other day, that in launching in the middle of a pandemic, launching with one product and then having a second one, and then making both equally strong and equally viable. Mm-hmm. And, doing as much as we have in the period of 12 months, I mean, we're quite excited and we can't wait to go on to, the next year ahead.
Okay, this is very incredible that you guys, you just started, already launched a second product. And the second product also is in balance with the first product. Like, you first take the prep course, then you take the interview course.
This happens from a learning that you have to be receptive to market needs, not be afraid to pivot. A lot of times when you have very fixed ideas and you're not willing to hear what your customers are telling you or what you are sensing as the need in the market, if you're not going to do it, someone else will come up and do it.
Yeah.
So I think having, so, I think this is a lesson for entrepreneurs, that listen to market needs, don't be afraid of change, and have the ability to pivot very quickly. So I think one thing that both Katherine and I share is we don't sit in ivory towers and expect others to, do our work.
Yeah.
And so I think that works very well. We take quick decisions, we get what is needed to be done quickly, and we get on with it. And I think that's one of the reasons why 2 products have sort of got launched and 2 products have seen success in the short span that it's been.
Because this is incredible. I mean, you just launched second product. This also shows that you have to make things happen. You just don't get stuff. Somebody else is not going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. Okay, so coming back to Xtraview, first I would love to know the amazing stories you guys have, negative and positive. But before that, let's get into the process. So when someone books an interview with you guys or takes a prep course, whatever, what is the process? What happens after I book an interview?
Sure. So in order to book the interview, someone just logs onto our website. It's very easy, xtraview.in, and then they can book their interview. So they'll be taken to our platform where they can select their time, they can select the date. After that, they'll receive an invitation with a Zoom link. On the day of the interview, they log in. They'll be paired with their interviewer. The interview session will take place over Zoom. Afterwards, within a span of a few days, they'll receive another email with the recording of the actual interview once it's been completed. So they can log back in, they can review the recording, and if they're happy with it, then they can choose to send it to any of the institutions that are there on our, they can choose from a drop-down menu. And then the interview is there. It's stored on the cloud. It's accessible for up to 12 months to any institution that they choose to send it with. If for whatever reason someone is not happy with their interview, then they can choose to book one more. We have it so that someone can't book interview, day after day after day after day, that there is a time period that they have to wait before they can book the next one. And then that next interview that they would use is the one that goes to institutions. So the previous interview would be erased, and then they would be able to send the final recording that they're happiest with to institutions to review.
Okay, so is that a kind of a mock that I can do? Like if I'm a person who's booking an interview and my interview is set up for so and so date, but I also want to prep for the interview again, for the same interview, right, with you guys. So that I do provide or something like that, just, make sure that I'm doing everything in that interview.
Sure. So in that case, yeah, you go on, Kavitta.
So that is possible. You could do an interview, and the second interview, so you make it clear that this is a mock interview. And then within a period of 7 days, you could come back and do your final interview as well.
Okay. So that is great. Okay, moving on to the next question. This can be a little funny also, but let's just see what your stories are. What is the first good experience with a child or with a client? And what was your first bad experience with a client? And here I'm not here judging or something like that. I'm not here to judge anyone. It's just, just to have a little fun with it.
Do we have to tell you only one bad experience? Or we can
definitely as much as you want to. I'm all yours.
Okay, so I'll tell you the bad one first, and then Katherine, you take the good one. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we've had experiences. Let's not call them bad, but I think imitation is a form of flattery. We've had someone who sent us a work order and then ghosted us. And
okay.
Has just not responded. We've had other clients who got into detailed discussions with us, and then finally there has been complete silence until we see they have adapted the exact same thing to be done in a similar fashion, very similar fashion. They're trying to do it themselves. So we're waiting for them to try, not succeed, then come back to us. I've already told you two. And there are many more. You know, see, I think when you come up with a new idea and everyone sees the merit in it, we yet have not come across anyone that has said, oh, but we don't think this will work. So I think that's really good. But also, yes, it's a free market, and you do come across, you know, the above two kind of people, which have not been very pleasant experiences, but you live and learn. So we've learned from those experiences also.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say for the good experience, I mean, the positive experience has been the feedback that we've gotten from students, especially after we do the extra prep workshops. We seek feedback for improvement from students. And so for them to come back and say, this was fantastic, I learned so much, these are the things that I never realized before, and this is what I'm going to start to apply. We had partnered with another organization that brings in these summer programs in collaboration with Harvard University. And so we partnered with them to help facilitate a scholarship for some students. And I think that was fantastic too, to be able to interact with those students who were deserving of a scholarship and to hear from them, these students who are really, you know, they're really excelling in what they do already. They're really fantastic. They're going to be the next generation of change makers. And so even from this group of students, to get their feedback that it was a really helpful and insightful workshop was nice. It was so nice to hear that what we're doing is making a difference in students' lives.
That is obviously that's what keeps motivated. You know, yeah, we are getting results, we're getting good feedback. That's what we want, right? So was Xtraview just like something you just came up with, or was it connected to you at a personal level? How did you just come up with Xtraview? I mean, yeah, how did you just like start?
So, you know, I've always been very passionate about communications, and I have also, you know, I've also been someone, like I said, who's been entrepreneurial in nature. And this is something that, you know, I've always sensed that there is a need for it. And honestly, I feel truly blessed that I'm able to do something about it, and in a fashion which is actually touching students. And it's not just the students in the metros. You know, these are students who have access to a lot of facilities in studying in great schools, you know, with private tuitions. Also, just sheer life experience gives them a lot of opportunities. But think about children sitting in Patna, or a child sitting in a small town in Tamil Nadu, or a girl who has a back problem in Jammu. And they all join these classes, and you know, they are so driven, and they know they want to go out and they want to make a difference. And I think the pandemic has been a blessing, because I don't think we could have reached so many students in all corners of India if the new normal did not become digital, at least in this 1 year that we've been in business. So I think in that way, the pandemic has been a great opportunity for us also. But when you speak to these students, and when you are able to empower them, and when you see the gleam in their eyes, when you talk about a communication stance to them, and they learn from it. And you know, our style of talking is very, Katherine is lovely with students, and I'm also very approachable and accessible to students. So when you see the difference that just the workshop makes, from when they come on and when it ends, and you know, in the beginning it's so difficult to get them to say their names with confidence.
To even turn on their cameras, yeah.
But by the end of it, we do a ask me anything, and it's amazing the kind of things they come up with and how they thank you. And I think just that is enough.
Okay, that is wonderful. Have you had any of these students from remote areas?
Yes, of course. So one of the things we've done is we've tied up with a learning app called Genius Teacher. And Genius Teacher till now has been a quizzing platform, but we are now launching a Command Your Communication course on that. The course is going to be a mix of video instruction, master classes, and then quizzes and activities on the app to relearn all concepts that have been introduced to them. And you know, we started Extra Prep as a 2-hour workshop, and we've gone on to create a Command Your Communication course, which is, I think, a total of 28 hours, if I'm not wrong, Katherine. Is that correct?
Longer. I think it's 28 courses. I think we have about, you know, 40+ hours of content for it.
Yeah. So we've actually created, between Katherine and I, we've created a 40+ hour content on communication that is going to be launched in the month of August online. So we've been doing pilots, and all these children have been part of those pilots.
Story of these children who are coming from smaller towns and just sort of the before and after that we've seen in them?
Yes, definitely. That's the
Yes.
question.
So should I take that, Katherine? Yeah. Okay. So there was a boy from Bhagalpur, and he wanted to become an IAS officer, and he did not. So it started with him. When we started speaking with him, like Katherine said, it was very difficult to get him to even put on his camera. But as the classes went on, and part of the training is we ask them questions just to build in confidence for them, so that even if they don't give the right answer, it's all right, but at least they get the confidence to talk. And eventually, by the end of the pilot training, this child came on board and said, he talked about the fact, so we didn't know day one that he wanted to be an IAS officer. And he talked about the fact that he's in class 12. He talked about the fact that how it's his dream to become an IAS officer. He talked about the fact that he's shy to speak. And he said that he felt confident that he too could learn how to do it.
So let's just come to the end. Come to the end. One piece of advice that you would like to tell someone who's just starting out a business or an idea, as to women or as to individuals, what are the advices you would give? That this is what will make you work.
Sure. So my one piece of advice to someone who's just starting out with a new business or an idea would be to know what your vision is, know what your product is and what you want to offer, and be clear on that and stay true to that. Because you'll come up, then in discussions with people as you're pitching your product, your idea, there will be so many people who will say, interesting, but have you considered A, B, C, D? And we'll give you all of these different ideas. There will also be people who say, no, it doesn't work for us. So you have to have enough clarity of vision and enough faith in what you are trying to do to be able to say, okay, maybe I'll move in this direction, or to be able to say, no, I want to stay on this track. And also to have that sort of long-term vision that a single person saying, no, not for us, doesn't derail you from the whole cause. You have to have, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's trying to do something new in the market, you have to have grit, you have to have some resilience, you have to have the ability to continue to overcome those obstacles so that every day you wake up and you keep pushing towards what you want to do. So that would be my piece of advice. Be clear in your vision, have faith in your product, and then nothing can stop you.
And I would add to that is, don't be afraid of dreaming big, but then follow that big dream with actions that make those dreams come true. So a lot of times it's very easy. Everyone has these big strategies and everyone talks of these grand plans, and everyone, it's very easy to give advice. It costs nothing. But then, don't be afraid to think big, because that's the only way you'll get somewhere. But after you've got that big idea, follow it through to make sure it happens. Don't just let it remain on paper, or don't try half-heartedly and say it didn't work. So a lot of hard work, a lot of passion for what you do, because otherwise it's not possible to make it happen. So I think those would be, that would be my sort of 2 bits to anyone starting out. So thank you so much for offering us this opportunity to talk about Xtraview, and I look forward to interacting with you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Lovely meeting you. Thank you again, and we look forward.